Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Saturday Show, Part 2. I have Alan here, who was going to be my guest, but we got a time mix up, which is okay. Um,
My fault.
so we're going to continue my theory about the student loan debt crisis. And before I get started with that, everybody, please subscribe to my channel. Please, please, please. I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers so I can have, bigger and better interviews. Not that I don't appreciate the people who I've interviewed, but
Do it, people. Do it. She deserves it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So please subscribe and remember, I am no longer on Patreon. I am at Buy Me a Coffee /TRACYMedia LLC. That is how you can financially support this channel because we need new lights and I can't afford them. So just please support me. I appreciate that. So Alan, how are you doing?
Well, kind of like you, I'm struggling. It's been a rough year for us. The Democrats lost the House of Representatives last year, but before they did, quite frankly, they betrayed us by not returning bankruptcy protections to student loans, which is the number one thing we were fighting for. So now we're dealing with a mixed Congress. The Supreme Court, as you probably know, knocked down Biden's student loan cancellation, which was kind of expected, I guess, but it's just been nothing but uphill struggle for the whole year up to this point.
Yeah, and that's what it seems like. And I want to talk about a theory I have because we talked about this when we were chatting. I have a theory that I don't think that Biden wants to do student loan debt at all. Because my main contention is, well, first of all, why can't you just say it's forgiven? Just say, okay, we're wiping it out. Because if I loan you $200 and you say, I don't have it. And I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Pay it. You don't have to pay me. That's it. I have a right to forgive your debt because I'm the one making you the loan. Well, since the federal government is the loaner, that's not the proper term, everybody. I'm just using Tracy speak. The loaner, and we're the borrowers. Why not just say, hey, you know what? It's okay.
You're exactly right, Tracy. You just encapsulated two of my major talking points for the past 6 months or longer. Joe Biden really never wanted to cancel loans. So before the election, he goes, I'm going to cancel student loans. I'm going to eliminate your loans. If you went to a public college or HBCU, earn less than $125,000 a year. Yeah, I'm going to cancel loans. And then after the election, he goes, whoa. No, I'm not doing that. That's the first thing he said after he won the election. He goes, no, I'm not canceling student loans.
I got correction. That is not the first thing he said. The first thing he said was there wouldn't be $2,000 checks. That was the first thing.
Right. Yeah.
And then he jumped on the student loan thing and said, oh, no, can't do it.
Yeah. Well, in my very narrow universe of only student loans.
Understand?
Yeah.
That wasn't the first thing he did. The first lie he told was the $2,000 check. We're just, we're keeping it honest here, people. We're keeping it honest.
And we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. Over the years, we've had kind of a natural affinity towards the Democrats because their rhetoric has been good, and the Republicans have been frankly, just terrible. Until some things have changed. Maybe I'll talk about that. But yeah, Biden made all these promises before the election. And then after the election, he goes, nope, I will not be canceling student loans by executive order. Nancy Pelosi, a leading Democrat, stands up and goes, the president does not have the power to cancel student loans. And so it became this big backpedaling, promise breaking, throwing a wet blanket over everything that we voted for them on. And I don't think Biden ever wanted to actually cancel loans. And it's kind of evidenced by the loan cancellation that finally he was kind of strong-armed into doing. it was half-hearted at best. It was lame. It was
That's fair.
10,000, 20,000. That, you know, $20,000 sounds like a lot of money to some people, but to the people who've been hurt worst by these loans, you know, we've got, you know, people in our group who like originally borrowed, you know, $25,000, $30,000. They have repaid $100,000 to date, and they still owe like $135,000, $40,000. I kid you not. That's the kind of numbers that we're seeing. And so the cancellation, even if it would have happened, wouldn't have helped the worst hurt people. But let's take a step back and let's look at the facts. Donald Trump as president, we don't love the Republicans. We kind of hate both parties, but it's a fact. Donald Trump canceled student loans not once, but twice by executive order. And there was no lawsuits. There was no fanfare. There was not a murmur from anyone. There was no lawsuits. And I mean, he just did it. He did it before the pandemic for disabled veterans. And then he did it with when COVID hit with the first repayment pause for COVID. And so the president, it's what you said, Tracy. If Joe Biden would have been serious about canceling loans, he would have just canceled them. He would have called the Secretary of Education and said, cancel the loans. But they didn't do that. They rolled it out. They made a big production out of it. They announced it just before the election. They made these means testing and other hurdles that you had to jump through administratively in order to make it through the process. And that gave the student loan, I call it the student loan swamp, all these people who are making money off of this racket, gave them ample time to mount all manner of lawsuits and court challenges and you name it. And so I don't think Biden ever wanted to cancel loans. And I think a lot of the establishment Democrats, like, as I said, Nancy Pelosi, Susan Rice, and quite frankly, I think Joe Biden himself was secretly pleased that the loans weren't.
If you remember, and my memory may be wrong, wasn't Joe Biden the one that either sponsored the bill or wrote the bill that said that you could not put your student loan debt in bankruptcy?
Joe Biden's got a lot of baggage on this.
And that's where I'm like, I think people forget that. And I'm like, well, he's the one. I can't remember which one he did, whether he wrote it or co-sponsored, but his name is attached to that somehow.
He was a surprisingly key guy when they first started taking away the bankruptcy rights from student loans. He was a surprisingly key junior senator from Delaware in 1976 who was thanked by name by the sponsor of that bill, Dennis DeConcini out of Arizona. And then in 1998, he certainly voted for the big bill that removed bankruptcy essentially permanently from federal student loans. And then in 2005, he was pretty much the number one guy that honchoed taking bankruptcy away from private student loans in 2005. So, yeah, I mean, among all living, serving politicians, Joe Biden deserves more credit than anyone on the planet for the student loan scam. And so to expect him to change his stripes as president, I guess it was too much to ask.
It really was. And this is where if you missed my live, because I went just went by myself. But one, I said this is on purpose, because if you think about it, going under the COVID relief, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, why do it that way? You apparently, according to articles I read, that he was told, hey, this isn't going to work. One, I don't think he cared that it wasn't going to work. I think the whole thing was theater. Let people see that you're working. I'm trying to do my best, and just hope that people like you don't exist to say, hey, no, it's actually like this. You're
exactly right. He used the weirdest law and a very strange law to justify that cancellation in the first place. He could have just used the Higher Education Act, which very plainly, Section 1082, gives the Secretary of Education, and by extension the president, very clear, very unambiguous authority to waive, compromise, release the federal interest in the loans. Our group started the petition that ignited the entire public conversation for student loan cancellation by executive order. And the only law that we even considered Joe Biden using was the Higher Education Act. And so when he announced his cancellation, I was like, what is this?
It's like I have to clean my house. I can clean it. I have to wash dishes. I can either use dishwashing detergent or soap. Well, I know dishwashing detergent works, but I'm going to use the soap instead. It doesn't make sense. It's like you're using the wrong. And I think that was purposeful.
Yes.
I think it was on purpose. I'm just going to not try to say that over. It was on purpose because it's either it was on purpose or Joe Biden's very stupid. It's one or it's the other.
Well, I can tell you this, Joe Biden is not stupid. And a lot of people say, oh, he's getting old and senile. That's not true. I followed Joe Biden around Iowa for over a year when the primaries were running up in Iowa, 2019, 2020. And I've spent many, many hours sitting in rooms with Joe Biden. He is not a stupid guy. The way he talks is confusing, but that's actually a trick of his trade, because the way he speaks, you can't pin him down on anything.
Yeah.
He says things. Did he just promise to cancel student loans? And then if you go back and actually, parse the text of what he said, it's like, no, I don't think he actually said that, like technically. So yeah, Joe Biden is clever as a fox, I would say. And he doesn't do anything stupidly. He puts a lot of thought, and his people put a lot of thought into what they do. So.
And you mentioned something that I didn't even think about is when Nancy Pelosi said, "Oh, the president doesn't have the ability to cancel student loan debts."
Yes.
I'm pretty sure she knows about the higher education. I'm pretty sure she knows about it. But again, this kind of feeds into this was on purpose. You get her to say, hey, he can't do it. You get his press secretary to say, oh, no, we're waiting on Congress. All of a sudden, you pick the dumbest plan to alleviate a little bit of debt. And it's a little bit, I'm going to get to our next question. It's like, okay, let's just set it all up and then boom. Well, we tried. We tried, but.
Yes. This is the quiet part out loud. I've been living and breathing this stuff. And to me, it's just patently obvious. Joe Biden never wanted to cancel loans. He never intended to cancel loans. The Department of Education has never had any desire or intention of actually canceling loans unless they absolutely, absolutely have to. That's been true for 18, 20 years now since I've been studying this problem. And, there's a deeper story here. There's a lot of funders, donors to the DNC, people like there's an old money family, a real estate family in California called the Swig family. They've got their hooks deep into people like all California politicians, Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom, Susan Rice, and Kamala Harris. And the Swig family went out of their way to say, no, do not cancel student loans by executive order, cancel it through Congress. And here's the thing that's really going on here, Tracy. In order for Congress to cancel student loans, they have to raise money from the taxpayer. So if they want to cancel $1.7 trillion in student loans, they have to take $1.7 trillion from the taxpayers and I guess give it to the Department of Education. That is hugely expensive. It adds to the national debt and the deficit and all these things. Very expensive. Whereas canceling student loans by executive order is literally free. You don't need one dime of money from the Treasury. You don't add, unlike PPP loans, unlike all the other stimulus we've seen, you don't add even a nickel to the national debt. In fact, no money even changes hands. And I think the swamp, the people in Washington, D.C., and all the people making money on this scam, they can't stand the thought of not getting more money in. Like the Department of Education would love to get $1.7 trillion of new money dropped on them by the from the Treasury, from the taxpayers, so that they can go and, pretend to cancel loans and pass all that money out among their friends. And, money is king in Washington, D.C. It's how big is your budget is really what prestige translates into if you're the Secretary of Education, the big chest beating statistic is how much money you got, what's your budget. And so canceling student loans by executive order, nobody in Washington, D.C. makes money. It's great for the taxpayers. It's great, obviously, for the borrowers, but it's not good for Washington, D.C. because they want that money flowing through.
Here's where I'm sort of kind of going to disagree with you. Sort of. Get what you're saying, but wouldn't it be more beneficial to cancel it if you cancel it by just executive order? That puts more money into people's pockets. That means that they can go buy things like a house, a car, get their home repaired, pay the rent on their apartment.
No matter how you cancel student loans, cancellation is a good thing. I think it's inevitable at this point. And it will stimulate the economy hugely. But the only difference is that when you do it by executive order, there's nothing to pay for. You just write off a fake number in a ledger in Washington, D.C., and that's it. But canceling through Congress, you've got to there's pay-go rules. So you have to raise new money from the taxpayer.
Right. That's why I'm like, I see what they're trying to pull. You get it through Congress. You'll never get it through the Senate because you have to fill it. I mean, why don't it's ridiculous. Say, hey, we're going to do this long way. We know it's not going to work, but we just hope that that it doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay, if we fool them just enough. But I want to talk about something that I didn't talk about in my live I just did a couple minutes ago. I want to talk about how some people were like, when Biden first announced this little minuscule $10,000 relief or $20,000 if you had a Pell Grant. How some of us were upset that he didn't just cancel the whole thing, that we should have been satisfied with 10,000 because 10,000 is better than nothing. What do you say to those people?
I say that's absolute nonsense. The student loan program is one big catastrophic failure. And, probably many, if not most of the people on our group, they go, you may as well just add $10,000 onto my loan balance. I don't care. It's all monopoly money. It's all silly. It's all fake at this point. When, like myself, for example, I borrowed $35,000. My loans were thrown into default improperly, if not illegally. And, today I owe $400,000, at least on paper. And it's like, the student loans are essentially one huge national joke at this point. When they turn these payments back on, my best estimate is that only about 20%, only 1 in 5 of the borrowers are going to even resume paying on their loans. Even before this pandemic, 3 in 5 student loan borrowers, nearly 60%, were not paying on their student loans. And, what's going on? What are we even talking about here? We're talking about 80% not paying when the loans are turned back on. We're talking about a default rate that even before the pandemic was 50, 60%. That's going to go up to 75%. We're talking about a lending system that, for all intents and purposes, really doesn't exist anymore, at least certainly not from as far as the people are concerned. The people are done. We've had enough. We've had people who've had their whole entire adult lives wrecked by these loans. Some people have paid hundreds, 2, 3, 4, even 5 times what they originally borrowed over the years, and they still owe way more than they borrowed. It's like, no, student loans at this point are a national joke. And anybody out there who does resume making payments on their loans, well, first of all, you get no merit badge. That's not a badge of honor in my book. I think that's quite frankly unpatriotic. But more than that, anybody who does resume paying on their federal student loans, they are going to be in the very small minority of all borrowers. This thing is over the cliff. the pandemic was the nail in the coffin. And at this point, I don't care what they do or don't do in Washington, D.C. The student loan system is finished by all rational metrics.
And that's another thing, because I also have student debt also in default. I never finished my college education. And probably not that I'm old, because I'm not. I may not get to pay back that amount. No university is going to accept me with that. I can't go out and get a Pell Grant or financial aid. If I don't, take an equity loan against my home, it's not going to happen. And that's a situation that a lot of Americans are in. The amount of us who took out loans and didn't finish. There's a difference between those who, you got your education, you matriculated, you finished, but there's a whole big chunk of us that didn't even get halfway done.
Yeah, 40% of all borrowers never graduate. And let's be honest, many people got degrees that just did not serve them professionally. Of all the people I know, in fact, with law degrees, for example, not even 30% of them are actually practicing law today. Life is funny. You go to school and you think one thing, and then you hit, reality turns out to be something completely different. The fact of the matter is that before the pandemic, right, 85% of all borrowers, that's more than 4 out of 5, 85% were never going to be able to repay their loans. So, for the 15% who are doing well and able to make payments on their loans and successfully doing that, well, good for them. But, not canceling loans because we don't want these 15% of people who are doing well to, get a benefit, that's ridiculous. It's nonsense. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, whatever they do in Washington, D.C., I really don't care. The only thing to me that matters, and this truly is the core of the whole problem, we the people have got to get the leverage of bankruptcy returned to these loans, because we've seen what the people in D.C. do as long as the leverage of bankruptcy remains gone from us. They do what Joe Biden just did. They do these lame, half-hearted, fake loan cancellation gimmicks. They get tied up in the courts. They keep throwing one income-driven repayment plan after another on top of us, and they keep screwing us. They keep perpetuating this unconstitutional loan scam. When we get the leverage of bankruptcy return, nobody has to file. And very few people, in fact, maybe no one ultimately will even have to file. It's just getting the leverage of bankruptcy back that will give us any kind of power in this relationship. That's what has to happen.
And I'm glad that you are here, because I probably said something wrong on my video that went live. I said that after the court loss that pretty much everybody saw coming, that the Biden administration proposed this, and I'm pretty sure I got it wrong, that if you made your payments on time for a course of over 25 years, you would get your loan forgiven. Is that right?
Well, they expanded the public service loan forgiveness program to include many, many, many more payments that people have made over the years, regardless of what sort of repayment program they were in. So they have expanded their cancellation criteria a bit, but Tracy, so Joe Biden's been in office for 2.5 years. He has under him, they have canceled $116 billion in student loans. That sounds like a lot, and I guess it is a lot, but you have to think about it this way. In 2.5 years, $250 billion in interest are added to the federal student loan portfolio, and another $250 billion are added in new loan originations. So Joe Biden could cancel $116 billion in student loans every 2.5 years, and even still, the nation's student loan debt tab would still grow by, I think, $278 billion or $500 billion every, more than that, over every 5 years. So, you know, I almost don't even pay attention to all these cancellation announcements that they make all the time, because it's not a step forward, it's a moonwalk. And not the Neil Armstrong kind of moonwalk. We're talking the Michael Jackson moonwalk. It's
Yeah, definitely, because
it looks good. It makes people think that, oh, the Democrats are on our side. But the Democrats aren't on our side. The Republicans are definitely not on our side, but neither are the Democrats. It's kind of a good cop, bad cop thing. You know, the rhetoric is different on either side. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, the Democrats abandoned and betrayed us. You know, the Democrats have been promising since 2006 to return bankruptcy rights to student loans. Well, last session, they finally had the presidency, they had the House, and they had the Senate, and they had a great bill, bipartisan. They could have passed in like that. And they chose to abandon that bill. They chose to ignore it. They chose to let it die. And that right there betrays what's really going on here. It's a uniparty thing, and both parties are against us.
And I do want to talk about something that you put in the message when I said, hey, are you going to be coming? You wanted to talk about the vote blue no matter who crowd. Yeah. And I could talk hours how the blue, I call them blue MAGA, because no matter what the Democrats do, people are going to be like, yeah, that's good because I call them blue MAGA. You call them vote blue no matter who crowd. But I'm going to let you just talk about them, and I'm just going to sit here and just listen.
Yeah. So as I said, we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. We tell the truth. We don't care who it offends, Democrat, Republican. We don't care. So the Democrats betrayed us on bankruptcy last session, and we are shouting that fact from the rooftops. Well, a Republican candidate for president, Ron DeSantis, last week announced that he was including the return of bankruptcy into his presidential campaign. And right after that happened, I think I made a tweet saying something like, we applaud Governor DeSantis's call and hope that more Republicans will follow in his footsteps or something. Well, I got set upon by all these blue no matter who people on Twitter. You know, I have to wonder if maybe those are actually Republican plans, and they're trying to push people away from the Democratic Party, because these people are so vicious. They are just, they're so condescending, and they try and bully you and, coerce you. They're like, and essentially their argument is like, how could you possibly say nice things about Republicans on student loans? They're so evil. Like, how can you need to suck it up on student loans and just vote for the Democrat, because obviously the Republicans are just evil. And I'm sorry, but we as a group will never do that. We've never done that. We've always been a nonpartisan group. We tell the truth. And when a politician does something good, we applaud them. When a politician or a political party, when they do something bad, we call them out on the carpet. And so you've got this, I don't know what you call them. Some of these people we found to be paid operatives. They were literally on the payroll of the DNC. Others, I don't know. But it just gets really vicious and brutal. I'm sitting there just telling the truth. The Democrats did, in fact, betray us on bankruptcy, and the loan cancellation thing was half-hearted and, probably not really even intended to ever happen in the first place. That's true. And at the end of the day, the Democrats need to be held accountable, just like both political parties do. And so what this gang does is they attack the messenger. I mean, brutally, viciously. Like, I probably lost a couple of nights sleep over the whole thing, just responding to these just incessant attacks from these blue no matter who people. They were They were trying to claim that I had a net worth of $800,000. And I was like, what? I mean, you're talking to a guy that's living essentially in a shack in northern. My net worth is probably, well, it's $35,000 is all the assets that I have. But when you count in my student loans, my actual net worth is probably like minus $365,000. So it just gets really nasty and brutal. And I kind of have to laugh. And I'm just sitting there going, if the DNC is paying you to attack people like me and insult and alienate student loan borrowers everywhere and gaslight us and try to make us believe that, oh, the Democrats are actually, doing really great things for us. We're not stupid. We see what's actually going on. It's a uniparty thing at best. And all they're succeeding in doing with all these vicious attacks, including personal, is pushing student loan borrowers even further away from the Democratic Party. If they really want to help the Democratic Party, they will go to people like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Susan Rice and the DNC and say, here's what you promised. You promised bankruptcy. You promised cancellation. You've done neither of those things. If you want to actually get the student loan voters back, and there are 38 million of us out there who are losing sleep over our student loans, and we vote. If you want to get us back, you can't do it with cheesy small talk and thuggery and coercion and gaslighting. You got to do it by actually bringing something to the table and getting something done. Joe Biden could return bankruptcy to student loans tomorrow. He could tell the Department of Education to cease and desist opposing student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. Joe Biden tomorrow could call the Secretary of Education and say, cancel the loans, and we'll deal with what happens after that. He could do that tomorrow. And so if the Democrats, the Democrats have a very serious choice to make. What's more important to them? What's more important to the Democrats? Keeping this student loan monstrosity alive and kicking, or everything? Because they stand to lose everything in the next elections if they think student loan borrowers are going to just suck it up and vote for them because the rhetoric is nicer. We're not stupid. It didn't work for Hillary Clinton in 2016. The voters saw through that fakery. And we're going to see through this fakery again if the Democrats don't walk their talk. Sorry to go on so long.
No, that's exactly what I wanted, because I have these, as me talking to people saying, no, it's actually this. The one thing that frustrated me was, and it was this whole line, you should be grateful for $10,000. It's better than nothing. No, it's literally nothing. It's literally, if you, let's just say, I think I owe like 33,000. Okay, you take 10,000 away. That leaves 23. Where am I coming up with 23? Where is this happening?
And then I guarantee you, once they do that, once they turn the loans back on, they're going to use every trick in the book to get that $10,000 back in fees and penalties, in consolidate. They're going to try and get you to consolidate your loans, consolidation fees, loan rehabilitation fees. That'll turn a $30,000 loan into a $50,000 loan overnight.
I'll tell you what Indiana did, because Indiana, it's crap. I don't know whether they tried this in your state. So when Biden announced that, he was going to do the 10 to 20,000 debt relief, they were like, okay, we're going to count it as income.
Yeah, we're going to tax it, state income tax.
I'm like, wait a minute, how is that income? That's not it. That's not money I went out and made. That's money that was, oh no. I mean,
it was the dirtiest thing in the world. And answer me this. Did the states tax PPP loans?
No, they did not.
No, they did not. So why are we all of a sudden talking about taxing student loan cancellation?
Every state that has a Republican governor tried to pull the same exact. How are you counting this as income? It's not you issuing the loan. It's the federal government saying, no, we're going to forget, and you're going to count it as income. Okay, I see what you're doing. So this is what I think should happen. don't know if you agree with it or not. I think that people should get together, all of us student loan debt activists, free college activists, we form a corporation. And every time there's a giveaway to a corporation, we sue. We say, no, that's our money. No, because I mean, that's literally what they're doing. So I'm like, okay, we'll show you. We'll do the same thing. Of course, we don't have the resources. But the whole point is, how do you, I don't know, sleep at night saying, hey, no, let's tax it. But it's not like somebody gave you 10,000.
It's not like I've got a bag of money and I'm going to take some out and give
money.
It to you.
Here I go. No, it's
right.
Just, yeah. Every state tried to pull that.
I'm telling you, Tracy, it's like the let's face it, the Republicans have been evil, straight up evil on this issue since pretty much the whole entire time. In fact, the whole entire time, maybe until recently that we've seen some good signs. Republicans are evil, but that doesn't make the Democrats good. It makes the Democrat essentially less evil. So I'm just telling you, if you feel like you're compelled to vote for one party or the other, I say don't. If you're a student loan borrower, I say walk away from that whole thing because it's a scam. You know, maybe vote for the Green Party, maybe vote for Cornel West. I don't know. All I can tell you is that student loan borrowers, in truth, we have no party. We have no party. And so we're walking in the wilderness out here, Tracy, and it's the only saving grace is that there's 43 million of us in the country, and including private student loans, there's 55 million people. That's nearly enough student loan borrowers to elect a president outright. And why each party is just terrible in different ways, but they're both terrible. It's just beyond me. It's like, what's so important about this failed lending scam that both parties are willing to alienate all of us? I
can answer that one. It's a real easy answer. Money, interest.
Money and greed. Yeah. I think there's a small number of people in Washington, D.C. that are making a ton of money off of this thing. They have a lot of power. They've got a lot of influence. And frankly, I think there's a lot of people that they don't care whether the Democrats are in power or whether the Republicans in power. As long as they're making money, they're fine. And so I think the invisible hand of the wealthy, call it a class war, call it whatever you want, but there are some very strong forces that are putting their thumbs on the scale on both sides of the scale, depending on what's going on. And I can just only tell people, you know, the founding fathers are on our side. I think the founders are looking down and saying, how could our people become so weak? How could our people let themselves be intimidated and cowed, and they're walking around with their tail in between their legs in fear of the federal government? The founding fathers didn't design the federal government to have this worse than mafia, like, 1984 type of power. Federal government was designed to be weak. It was designed to be for and by the people. And that's gone by the wayside, certainly on the student loan issue. I would only tell people out there, look, we are way stronger than the federal government. We the people, we the student loan borrowers, 55 million people. When we get together and we all sort of have a common understanding and a common sort of consensus that student loans are one big national joke, nobody should pay. I think that's absolutely going to happen. I think within a few months of them turning these loans back on, I think that people are finally going to snap out of it and they're going to go, yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Nobody has the money. I mean,
nobody has the money.
I think when I did my loan rehab thing, it was, oh, you can afford $900 a month. I'm like, who said? Who? Where's this? Well, you make this, but I'm like, yeah, but I got house, medication, food, utilities. Those things come way before. Those things come way before. And yeah. I think they're gonna. I think what's gonna happen, unfortunately, is it's gonna be a whole lot more court cases because they're gonna hire the collection agent. I can see it coming, unfortunately. So I think a lot of collection agencies are about to make a lot more money because a lot more people aren't going to be paying.
Yes, indeed. I'll tell you, when October 1st rolls around, it is the number one golden fantasy of the student debt collection industry to see these loans turned back on and to see the leverage of the right of bankruptcy remaining gone from the loans. If they get that, it is going to get very ugly. We're going to be served up like sheep to the slaughter, like, turkeys at the Thanksgiving dinner. I would only urge people, the most important thing I'll say today is, if people are very concerned, and they should be, about these loans being turned back on and us remaining without any power, the number one thing that they should be doing, and the easiest thing, the quickest thing that we can possibly do, and really, in my view, the only thing that will ultimately lead to cancellation or interest forgiveness or anything people want to see, starts with bankruptcy. So the people can push Congress. We came close last session. We can and we must fight with everything, if these loans are important to us, to get bankruptcy returned, hopefully before October 1st. But time's ticking. We're in August now, and people better take these loans very seriously, because we don't know what's coming. Nobody knows what's coming. But it could get very, 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 very ugly.
Oh, unfortunately, I think I know what's going to happen. I think there's going to be a whole lot of people not paying.
Yep.
Because the cost of living is going up and
up.
It's
just not going to happen.
Up. Yeah.
Inflation.
Like if you were expecting, it would make more sense to me. Well, of course, if we had free college, we wouldn't have to take out loans in the first place. But again, that's a whole separate discussion. It would make more sense if you would just eliminate the debt, let everybody put more money into the economy.
I agree.
This thing started, but no, the banks we wanted to charge people double, triple, quadruple what they borrowed so we can make money, not realizing, the cost of living is high. So we're not going to pay.
All the money that people were saving during COVID has been sucked up by inflation. And an interesting thing to realize is, we don't want everybody to run out and file for bankruptcy. That's not why we're fighting for bankruptcy. The fact of the matter is that when we get bankruptcy rights returned, the president, whether it's Biden or the next president, they're going to have to cancel loans very broadly, very meaningfully, because if they don't, they're going to see a wave of bankruptcy filings by far bigger than the Great Depression. In an average year, 1 million people file for bankruptcy for any reason. When they return bankruptcy of student loans, if they don't cancel student loans, if they don't write off a ton of debt, which they should have done years ago, if they don't forgive a ton of interest, if they don't work with borrowers to get a fair, reasonable settlement, then we're going to see a wave of bankruptcy filings that would put the Great Depression, make it look like a tiny little thing. And no president is going to preside over that. Because remember, when people file for bankruptcy, it's not just their student loans they're going to include. They're going to bring in other debts as well. So that could have a domino effect that could really be terrible. So I'm just here to tell you that getting bankruptcy rights back will directly lead to very significant, very meaningful, maybe even total federal student loan cancellation. And it's the only thing that I can think that is going to cause that to happen. There's nothing else I can see that could possibly make that happen. So nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. It's a terrible thing to have to do. And very few people should even have to file when we get the right return. But I just hope people will start realizing that's what absolutely has to happen.
Here's what I'll say. Trump did it 6 times.
Yeah, no doubt.
Not one bit. I'm like, okay.
There's a very good reason that the founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws ahead of the power to raise an army, ahead of the power to, coin currency, ahead of the right to bear arms, ahead of, every right in the Bill of Rights. Founding fathers felt very strongly that we need to have fair bankruptcy laws and uniform bankruptcy laws in this country. So we are living the founder's nightmare as we speak.
Yep.
So,
and finally, can you tell us where we can find you at?
Yeah, studentloanjustice.org. You can see us all over the place on Twitter, on Facebook. We've been doing a lot of media lately, so you'll hopefully see us here and there. We've been on MSNBC and Fox News and The Guardian and many, many other places over the past few months. So hopefully people are going to start getting off their ass, because we can't solve this problem on our own. It's going to take living, breathing people, like normal human beings, stepping up and owning this problem, because we can't pull your weight for you. You know, we're just a collection of normal people. But it's really fun to fight this fight. It's really cathartic, and I can only humbly request that people come on by and start at a minimum doing our daily actions, which is they're really easy.
Yep. So everybody, I want definitely look at Alan's sign, and I definitely again want to invite everybody to subscribe to this channel. Like this video, share this video, comment on this video. I never get comments on my videos, so I would love to get a comment. I want to again thank everybody for watching. Thank Alan for coming in, even though we got our times mixed up. But you know, I know I'll be talking about this again, and hopefully I can have you back again. But I definitely want to thank everyone for watching. Have a great day. And remember to contact Student Loan Justice for the daily actions that you can take. Have a great, fantastic.
And remember to subscribe to Tracy. If you want the truth, she's got it. And that's a very rare commodity.